Hi there. Here we are, and I think we might be kind of live. I'm not sure how to interpret this. Yeah, it looks good. There's something happening on YouTube. Yeah, and of course, there is sound because Windows is unable to turn off the sound of this device. It's so funny. I'll switch it off manually. Here we go. It's so weird how bad Windows is at everything. It's so weird to me because they've been doing that for 40 years now, or is it longer? I'm not sure. I'd have to Google, and who knows how to do that. But yeah, it's a horror. Yeah, everything is a horror, but I still welcome you to this interactive writing live stream, and I hope you shall enjoy it together with me. We are writing a story, which you can see there, and which is about saving the world, kind of. And of course, the threat, since we here are and won't accept anything but the highest lofty aspirations. The threat we are trying to save the world from is, of course, not just a huge lumbering beast that needs to be destroyed by some sort of big, what's his name? That director you all know and everybody always mentions when it's about explosions, or an alien attack that can be defeated by sneaking a computer virus into their systems, or a giant volcano that has to be stopped. I don't know. How do they stop the volcanoes in these disaster movies? They don't, right? They don't stop the volcanoes. I think they just don't. Anyway, that's not it. But the threat is the much less palpable right-wing ideology that's still at the cores of our societies, and trying to tackle those is, of course, much more complicated. And one might argue, let's not be too pessimistic, much harder to portray in an interesting manner that is also acceptable at the same time, and that is a particular challenge, the last part, because we are not so much invested in writing the most entertaining story. I guess that doesn't mean it's not supposed to be interesting at all, but this is not supposed to be a mainstream best-selling action thriller. More of an interesting theoretical exercise in writing a story or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. The chat has been very kind to me. Epiphany has written hello with a very nice smiley. Gekrimbel has written hi everybody, and has written a nice hi, hello. Glad to see you all. And yeah, what I was trying to say in that rather cryptic and convoluted manner, we are at a point in our story where I'm not sure if is there a summary? Well, we don't need a summary. We don't need no stinking summaries here. How do I do this? Let me start by explaining for everyone who doesn't know, in case there is someone someday. This is an interactive writing stream. This is our story. There's a link to a Discord where you can be interactive in the live stream. There's no chat here on YouTube because that can be annoying and hard to moderate, and there is no moderation team. There's just me. Sorry. But it's been fun so far, so I think it will continue to be. So in case you want to interact but can't or don't want to use Discord, just let me know. We'll find a way. Yeah, and we're at a point in the story where Sam and Munira are trying to help people living in a home for the elderly and in a care facility. Let's call it that. And that's difficult. And I think we mostly we need at all costs to not make this an enabled savior story. I think I already mentioned that, and everybody who's in the chat knows that because they've heard me talking about that for probably half of the live stream last time. But it's important to me, and it has to be on the forefront of our thinking while we're writing this. This can't be them swooping in there and saving all those poor disabled people. We need to give them agency. We need to give them voice. We need to have them participate. And I guess, not sure what that says about me, but the best thing I can figure out to do that is by them starting out, making a few mistakes, and then having people who live there talk to them and criticizing them, and then hopefully getting into a more constructive way of doing things. And yes, this is absolutely a part of the story where we would need sensitivity reading. But we don't have that right now. So before I commercially publish this, I would definitely try to get some sensitivity reading by people who are actually disabled and or living in such a home or have experience with that. But yeah, we don't have those available right now. And since this is a free live stream with 3 participants besides me, I will not be spending hundreds or thousands of euros on sensitivity reading in advance right now, but we shall all try to be sensitive about it and do our best. And of course, I will very much listen to your feedback about this and how it feels to you. But for now, we shall refresh our memory about what happened before, because as far as I remember, they haven't even reached the facility we're talking about. They are still talking about how to do it. Yeah, and by it, I don't even mean doing anything about the situation there, but about Sam teaching Munira, which is, of course, a very, very interesting idea to Munira, who didn't even know magic existed until she met the first Magi a few hours ago. And it might also be a very interesting topic to Sam, because Sam has known about magic for quite a while, I guess. We haven't specified yet for how long. Years, definitely. Probably decades. Or let's say almost certainly decades, probably centuries. We don't know. We haven't written anything about that yet. So it's open. And so let's start with that last thing that happened in our dialogue. Munira said, so you've never had anyone to teach, have you? No apprentices? How did you lot learn magic? Did you have any sort of teachers? Did you have any sort of teachers? Sam laughed. Oh, that's a long story. And one for much, much later. It was long ago anyway. Nobody quite remembers, not even us sometimes. Well, fine by me. I never liked history lessons. So what will I learn first? Do you have a hat? Because I've always wanted a bunny. Munira's laughter sounded a bit forced even to herself. She decided not to try that joke again. All in due time, Sam assured her. For now, we have much more difficult things ahead. What's that? Are we going to fight an entire police station? Because I'd be game. Saving the world is not just about fighting, although it can rarely be avoided completely. For today, the first challenge will be finding out what we are even supposed to be fighting for. And here I thought you already knew everything. Ah, but this is not about what I know. Tell me, what do you know about retirement homes? Sam made a grimace and contorted their mouth like they had just tasted something unpleasant. There really is not a good term for those places, is there? If you can think of one, let me know. I don't really like the one I used. Und da fehlt ein Satzzeichen. There's some punctuation missing there. Sorry, I don't know why I slipped into German there. I briefly forgot that we are in the English live stream. I hope you forgive me. It's maybe because I have that kind of weird situation in a mostly German story I'm writing right now, which has a lot of English dialogue, so the constant switch. Do I sound like the guy who just returned from Japan right now? I kind of do. I kind of do up here. So I shall stop. So yeah, this is where we are. So if any of you have any input about that and about how you wish me to approach this, let me know. Until then, I shall just try to continue our story and see where it goes, and yeah, well, trying to weigh how far in which direction we're going to go, and what Sam will already be considerate about, and what Sam will have to learn themselves, and how Munira will be involved in all this, and so on and so forth. So quite complicated, but that's what writing is. And of course, we picked this topic to write about, knowing that it would make things even more complicated. So let's try. Yeah, now Munira has to respond something. Now the thing is, Munira might say she knows nothing about them. She might say something like, my grandmother used to live in one. She might even say something like, I don't know a lot about retirement homes, but my family and I used to live in a facility for refugees for a while. And of course, it's different, but I also imagine there are some similarities, especially about how maybe the relationship between the people living there and the people supposed to take care of them. Although, of course, it's not the same at all. I'm not saying it's the same. I'm just saying Munira might think there are similarities, and of course there are, because there's that power difference, that situation. There are people who are supposed, yeah, to take and provide care in different ways, but who are also in a position of power in different ways. I guess in refugee facilities, for example, the physical violence of the security people is much more present, while in retirement homes and facilities for disabled people and all that, there is not so much the constant threat of security, but there is violence. There's physical violence too, probably not as dominant. Probably there. Well, yeah, it's all quite difficult, and I'm always unsure, because I need to think about this, and I need to articulate my thoughts and guess a few things, because I don't have experience myself, and because we don't have sensitivity readers here and all that. But there's a limit to how far I should go about that, and if you feel I overstep that, let me know. Because I guess I will. It will be hard to completely avoid it, and I'm grateful if you provide sort of additional judgment there. Yeah, I'm thinking no personal experience with retirement homes. Munira hasn't been there yet. She only knows maybe stories from friends. Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, let's go with that, I think. Let's go with that. No dictation today, by the way. Except if I change my mind, then there will be dictation. I don't know a lot. Munira readily admit. Who is doing the perspectiving here? Is this? I'm sorry. Is this Munira's perspective? Who is telling? I guess, yep, it's Munira's perspective, which makes sense. I think this still works. Only what I saw in videos and what now. I think we can. I think comparing her experience as a refugee would be a bit far-fetched, says Gekrimbel. Yeah, if you say that, you're probably right, and I should just forget about that. Yeah, let's just forget about that part. It's complicated enough as it is. You're right. Position 1. She had a friend in class, and I think we might recycle that name. or even that character for now. At least at this point, in details later, perhaps. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Here, there's Julia, for example. I think Julia might be nice. Yep, let's use Julia. What Julia told me about visiting her grandparents, both. Now another thing is, and that's I don't think we have to make it all that complicated, but we should keep it in the back of our minds, kind of, because I made this little complication that the two of them are actually in Germany and speaking German, but this is a translated version of the story. So the words they use are not the words they actually use. I'm not sure how relevant it is. Just thinking about it. Only what I saw in videos when Julia told me about visiting her grandparents. She made it all sound quite horrible, but I think she mostly just hated the thoughts of old age, sickness, and disability. She never talked much. Is that too much spontaneous insight by a very young person just asked about this and just improvising? Not sure. I think I'm going to go with it for now. Epiphany says, quite rightly, there is sometimes sexual violence against the elderly. It absolutely happens, yes, particularly women and non-binary people, but I don't know a lot about this. Yeah, there is. Elderly and, of course, in disabled homes as well. But that's usually not... I think quite often it's not something the people who come visiting are aware of, partially because, of course, it's kept secret by the people involved, and partially because they don't want to know. And Munira can only speak from the relayed perspective of someone who visits. So I guess that this won't come up right now. Although, of course, there are the videos she talks about, the videos, the series. Like, for example, there's that. Oh, I hated that. I'm not even sure I'd say it was. Well, yeah, it was kind of bad too. There's that series about the person who swindles themselves into a position of power of attorney for elderly people. I forgot what that series was called, but that showed a lot of scenes in a home for the elderly, because that was about, I think, her. I think it was a person using she/her pronouns who tried to get people into that facility. And I don't know the English words for that. Well, get a power of attorney for them on the pretense that they were no longer able to think and decide for themselves. And the people were trying to fight her, but weren't very successful, and it was quite painful to watch, actually. It wasn't fun at all, although, and I'm not saying it was a documentary or trying to be very serious. It was trying to be like this usually kind of funny Netflix series type of thing. Yeah, so that's something Munira might have watched, for example, is what I'm saying. So it was fiction, Gekrümbel asked. Yes, absolutely. I'm now going to Google it. because I think it's wait, I'm going to make it less vague. I think it was actually Netflix, so I'm starting with that series. What do you call that? Fraud, elderly, home facility. I'm trying. What's it called? I Care a Lot. That was it. I Care a Lot. And of course, in a way, it's based on real events because, yeah, some people do that or something similar, but it's not, as far as I know, actually based. Well, yeah, it's based on a true story in the sense that there are true stories, but it is not a true story. They never are. And this is an especially not a true story, I think. But it's, of course, on the other hand, it is something that actually happens. Yeah, I Care a Lot. That's the name of the series, and it is Netflix. And I think we can actually... Yeah, Gekrimmel says, sounds very painful to watch it. Yeah, I actually didn't finish it because it was not... It wasn't insightful enough to feel like I should finish watching it, and it was definitely not entertaining enough and too painful for me to want to finish watching it. So I just stopped somewhere. I'm not sure if it had a happy end. It didn't even feel like the kind of story that has a happy end, but who knows? And who knows what the developers consider a happy end for that. She never talked much about the actual facility and the people working there, just how much she dreaded her visits and her grandmother especially. Not sure if she would go into much more detail. Oh, and I watched I Care a Lot. I think we can use that. And it makes those places feel kind of like hell. It's set in the US though. Is it as bad in Germany? Or worse? Like that, but then again, has Munira already realized that Sam is not the perfect person to ask that kind of question? Maybe. Do you think? Maybe that conveys a slight idea of her understanding that Sam doesn't know either. Just as a gesture, a nod towards that idea. All right. That thing is a movie. No, wait. Just without a comma, right? I can't remember it. I can't remember how commas are set after punctuation in speech in English. I can't. But I think here we don't use a comma at all, right? I think there's no comma at all. I'll Google it again. I'm sorry. Please bear with me. I'll Google it again. Speech, English, question mark, comma. We use a question mark, not a comma. There's no comma at all. I think there's no comma, says Epiphany. You're right. My brief Googling experience gives me the same answer. Because in Germany, or maybe I should rather say in German grammar, we have a comma there. it's like this. So in German we do it like this, with a comma after the quote marks, but not in English. I can't remember it. I always have to Google. Gekrimmel says I only know the German rules, which are really silly. Imho. Yeah, they are, but I've gotten used to them, so they feel natural. All right, so no comma, that's settled. Netflix series. That's a thing we just talked about in German live stream. We didn't get a clear, unanimous position on it, but in case you want to think about it too, there is of course practically irrelevant, but let's say idealistically interesting question of how much we want to advertise stuff like especially Amazon, Google, Netflix, things that are just part of everyday life and conversation. And I think it helps ground a story if characters actually say it, because to me it always feels a tad ridiculous when I watch a series that's supposed to be set in the real world and people say, let me use a search engine for that. Or maybe even worse, there's actually a cute little John Finnemore sketch about people thinking up names for alternative search engines because they don't want to use Google. It's actually cute. I think you can look it up on YouTube if it's there. It's easy to find by what I just described, and if not, you won't find it, obviously. You can use Google. Yeah, but back to the serious question. I'm still not sure what I want to do and where I fall on that question in my final position. But for now, I think I'll say Netflix, because this is supposed to be set in our world, and in our world, Netflix is just a power in telling stories, and especially, of course, in online series and videos. And I think our little story needs all the help it can get in feeling real and grounded in the actual world. And since it is being read by 4 people, I think the dangers of providing free PR for these huge world-dominating companies is negligible compared to the effort and possible detriment to the story it would mean if we were trying to do something like web entertainment, conglomerate. See what I did there? Isn't that clever? I just used another company name, although everybody knows I actually mean Netflix now. Yeah. So it's fictional, right? Is that right? Fictional? There's no TI. There's no. It's just fictional. But there is fictitious. Isn't that a word? There is a word about like fiction, but with another TI, isn't there? Fictitious. It exists. What's the difference? What's the difference between fictionary and fictitious? Not real or true, imaginary or fabricated, occurring in invented or occurring in or invented for fiction. Whereas fictional is relating to or occurring in fiction, invented for the purpose of fiction. So I guess fictitious has a slightly more fake subtext and meaning, false, fake, counterfeit, whereas fictional is more focused on it occurring in a fictional story, from what a quick Googling gathered. I consider this more of a question to especially Epiphany, who is, I still think, the only person whose first language is English in our stream. I'm not trying to explain it to you, I'm just saying what my impression is from quickly Googling it. and asking you to pitch in if you know anything. I would say your impression is correct, says Epiphany. Great. Thanks. That's nice to know. Yep. Puts us in a great position to quickly swoop in and improve the lives of the people living there, as both knowing nothing about the situation. At least we're trying. This is, of course, this is a first draft. I tend to say that a lot, and I try not to say it too often, but I think it helps to remind ourselves of that now and again. Although we should be wary of not using it as an excuse too much. But just in case you were wondering this too, I consider this a first draft, so that means, of course, I try to do it as well as I can, but at the same time, I put a slight focus on progress and not so much on perfection, because I could make a stream where you watch me work on this response for 2 hours or more or less. And I might still have doubts in the end if it's the best response and how it fits into and what we do with the rest of the context and all that. And of course, one can do that for a long, long time. And one might. But I think for now, we try to get the story ahead and later read it through again in its whole context and then fix the details. That's what I just said. It's true in the it's true in the sense of that it should be done, but it's a big fat bald lie if you consider it information about my work process in writing stories, because I don't do that thing. But I pretend I do, and as I said, it's true in the sense that it should be done and that this would be a good process to have. And that's all that matters, right? All right. Are you sure you would not rather, I don't know, teleport us to some old library tower and hassle me with silly exercises under the pretense of teaching me magic? Because that's what magic teachers usually do, right? So, and now I think it's time to get a move on. Quite. No comma again. Sam answered cheerfully. Pushing open, what are they called? Those two winged doors that can move automatically. The door, it has two parts. What's it called? Yeah, of course I feel comfortable doing an English language live stream. Why are you asking? I don't know. Well, what are they called? These doors. You know, I'm talking about the door thingy. Wait. I'm not even sure what they're called in German. So if that helps, double door. It's just a double door. But now I want to have it more specific. Mm. Mm-hmm. Guess I can't get it. Maybe you have an idea. Pushing open the electrified double door at the entrance. Sliding doors, yeah, quite, but not quite. Yeah, thanks, Em. I'm thinking about. Well, wait. Let me Google that for you, but in a not condescending manner, because this actually makes sense for you to ask and for me to Google it. So wait. I'm going to show you what I mean. And it's not quite a sliding door. You can't know that, so your thought is good, but doesn't fit my imagination right now. Let me see. I think electric is the word you're after. Yeah, you're right, Epiphany. What I'm talking about is kind of not exactly that. Maybe let's use this. It's not quite the same, but it's the best I can find right now. It's not exactly what I'm thinking of, but it's close. So I'm gonna try. Look, here you go, and here's the photo. I'm thinking about this kind of door, which you often find in hospitals and such facilities, because of course they are wide and you can push beds through and all that. And often they are electrified for obvious reasons, and they swing open when you. Sometimes, of course, they're just motion activated. There's a motion sensor there, but sometimes they aren't, and you need to push a button somewhere or pull a lever or something like that. I think I've never actually seen one operated by pulling a lever, but I guess all this is possible. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. And they swing open like well, actually they swivel on an axis, I guess, but they swing open from your perspective. Just like a normal door, but it's two of them, and this. God. Yeah, well, I never pretended to be a door expert, okay? Pushing open the electrified double door at the entrance, and yeah, we already have a cheerful stepping up to the. Okay, I see. It says stepping up to the. Yeah, what are we looking for? A counter? Yeah, maybe I'll just say counter. I think. I don't know what they're called either, says Epiphany. Yeah, and there are of course 1,000 different variances of these. This is not. Gekrimmel says, I think I know the door, but not the English word either. There are 1,000 variances of these. Some have these push bars that you can see there. Some don't. Some are locked if they are not electrically moved. Some are not. Some have actual grips, no levers. Damn it! What do you call those? The thing you open a door with. I don't even know the name in German. I don't even know what the word is in German. It's called a Klinke. In Germany, we call it Klinke, and it's a jack. No, it's not a jack. It's a door handle, right? Jack is another kind of Klinke. It's because, of course, Klinke is a word in German that means a lot of different things, but I think you'd call mechanized doors. Yeah, kind of. I think I'll stay with what I have, but yeah, you wouldn't call the thing you open a door with a jack, right? Jack is, yeah, I think it's like the audio jack. That's what, funny enough, that's called Klinke too in German. But no, I'm talking about, yeah, door handle, right? Yep. Stepping up still. Counter. At the opposite wall. behind the counter. Set. Yeah, well, and now we have to start with the part I'm afraid of, and which I should have prepared probably. So I avoid the most obvious mistakes, but of course I didn't. So what do? I'm hesitating at this moment because I had the thought, I know a lot of these places that have the people living there also working there, which I think is not a bad idea in itself. Of course, depends a lot on the actual system and how it is done. But I think the basic idea is not wrong, so I like it in principle. But I'm not sure how are we going about this? Maybe I'll even make a poll out of it, so you can chip in easily. And it's difficult to make a poll out of it, but I'll try. Is the facility they are visiting, and I'll of course have to oversimplify for this question, but a good one, 2, a bad one, or 3, a mediocre one. So just as a tendency, do we want to portray, and a good one, I'll say that again, compared to average, not actually good. So what I'm saying is, and I'll over explain this again. Let's see, maybe I'll even just use here like those. And what I'm trying to say is, I think there are no really good facilities in Germany that take care of the elderly or the disabled. There are just not. But of course, there are terrible ones, and there are those that are considered good by experts and that are way above average in their standards of care and all that. And that's basically what I'm asking. Do we show an example that's just average, mediocre, realistic? Do we show one that's really bad, which I know a few examples myself of, or do we show a comparatively good one which still has a lot of flaws to be worked on? So none of those will provide a situation where Sam and Munira just see what goes on, not approvingly, and then say, well, this is perfect, we have nothing to do here, and then leave. This won't be the result of this poll. And I realize it's still not for you there to vote on because I'm still working on it, and right now I'm looking for my cursor. There it is. Question mark, send. So, and now I shall provide the smileys for you to click on. The first one is there, the second one is coming up, and here's the third one. Where is it? Here you are. Here we go. So yeah, you can let me know which direction you think, and of course, as always, you are very much welcome to type out an answer if you want to give more details than this little poll allows. The polls are just a tool for you to give you an option to easily influence the story, and for me to kind of purposefully focus on one question. A mediocre one is the clear majority, the unanimous decision of our chat. Thank you for that quick decision. Yeah, very helpful. And now, so let's do a mediocre one. And of course, I now provided myself with the thankless task of deciding what that means. But I think it is a nice gesture by our story in the right direction to have the counter operated by a person who lives there. That's not. If you had voted for a really bad one, I think that might have been difficult to justify. But I think in a mediocre facility, that's quite possible. And I think it's a nod in the right direction. So let's do that. Which leads me to the next issue. Because now, this is a tricky one. Now we have to provide a manner for our perspective character, which is right now Munira, to notice and or decide that the person behind the counter is a person who lives here. And that leads us into the very dangerous and problematic territory of deciding on basis of looks if a person is elderly, disabled, in need of care, and so on. And of course, some kinds of disability are obvious, are easy to see, like the person could be in an electric wheelchair with multiple visible contractions or other obvious differences from the medical norm. Yeah, we need words for that even, because yeah, well, you might have noticed. I'm trying to be sensitive here, and it's kind of a balance act, I think, because on the one hand, I don't want to pretend like a disability is like I don't want to be these people who just smile and say, oh, we're all differently abled, aren't we? Because there is a difference between abled and disabled people, and a lot of that is made by our society and by the hurdles we place in the path of disabled people. But there are differences, and a disability is, of course, something that influences your life. But on the other hand, I don't want to be those people who look down upon disabled people and consider them another kind of human beings, which I don't want to do either. I realize we don't need to do all this in this one sentence, but we're approaching that territory, so I'm sharing my thoughts on it with you. And yeah, consider it a proactive question and an apology at the same time for being a bit hesitant about this. Maybe I'll go for the easy way in this example. Set a person in an electric wheelchair. In front of a computer, typing with one outstretched slowly but stopping and smiling up at them once they had stopped at, well, do I use the word counter again? I just say stopped, I think. Hello. And next thing, it's also, Now, I think that's also something a bit weird, and I think I'd like a bit of feedback from you for it. I think this person might have a speech impediment, but then again, we might use we might have another character with a speech impediment, and of course, it's difficult to portray this without running danger of appearing to make fun of it, which I absolutely don't want to do, or maybe. Oh, and also something we shouldn't forget. This is not for now. But we might remember that. Something you often hear me ranting or at least complaining about popular culture, but one thing that's quite positive and that I noticed in a lot, which probably means 3 or 4, series or movies I watched recently, all of them rather uninteresting and on the whole not a recommendation by me, but I noticed that a lot of them had characters using sign language, which I can't. So I probably should stop trying to make these signs, which is very insensitive of me. And just without making a big deal of it, it's just the main character has a friend who obviously uses sign language, and they use sign language to talk to them, and that's a scene, and then the scene is done, and the story moves on, and I like that. And I like that because that's a very, very nice kind of representation, which I haven't done in any of my stories as far as I can remember. And we should try to remember that and build that in somewhere, I think. And it's just one example. I'm not saying we absolutely need a person who relies on sign language, but just as a general thought, we have this one wheelchair user behind the counter, and it might even be the better decision to have them not be a person who lives there, but just a person who works there. And maybe, just maybe, we can make it a point, or maybe we shouldn't. I'm not sure, because Sam or Munira or both of them could just assume that this person is an inhabitant of this facility and be corrected and be told, no, I go home at night. I don't live here at all. I'm just an employee. Is that a good or a bad idea? Because I think, it's that old question. I think our societies are horribly ableist, and we need to work against that as much as we can. So every prejudice and preconceived notion about disabled people we can contradict, I think is a good thing. But then again, we shouldn't make a gimmick out of it. And we still need to tell a story that feels real to people. And there's always a bit of a conflict. I personally like the idea of the employee not living there, said Epiphany. Yeah, and I think I tend in that direction as well. Then we just need to build that into the story somehow. But I think there are several ways to do that. It shouldn't be that hard. I think that can be done. Yeah. Yep. Gechimbel says, I like the idea too, also having them fall into the trap of assuming so, but I would do it very briefly and matter-of-factly. Absolutely, yep. We can't make a big song and dance about it. That would be horrible. Yep. That would be a train wreck. No, we shouldn't do that. You're right. Then, I think we won't get that far today. And I think I'll leave my speech impediment idea for later. Greeted them. What can I do for you? Are you here to visit someone. Yes, in fact, we are. No, here, the comma goes there. Sam responded. Who would you say? No. Sam basically wants to know who runs this facility, who is the person to talk to if we want to change things. Who's the boss here? And I'm not sure if we want Sam to just say it like that, or if maybe we want Sam to use a sort of weird, wording for it that doesn't exactly fit, and that kind of shows their weird background, like something, I don't know. I wouldn't. Of course, we can't overdo it. Like I don't know. Pray tell, who rules here? Please show me to the halls of your king. Is basically what I'm thinking of doing, but with more subtlety. You know. This is what I'm trying to do, and I know it's not like I haven't forgotten that Sam hasn't done a lot of that so far. I realize that. That's why I don't want to do it like in my example. But I'm thinking, you know, something that just slightly, subtly shows off that Sam doesn't quite understand how our societies work and how organizations are structured and all that kind of thing, you know? And so, yeah, what would be a good word for that? I'm going to start with the word rule just as a search, as a basis for search, which doesn't work right now. I'll never get it. Sometimes I can use word as a thesaurus, and sometimes it refuses. And I think in this case it's because, it sees a grammar error here, because the sentence is not finished, which makes me angry. Because of course I look up words before the sentence is finished, and why won't you let me do it? Yeah, of course, judges, rulings, rubrics. No. Of course, now. Maybe let's use ruler as the word, which will probably be interpreted as the thing you use to draw a straight line. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm going to give you your cursed question mark so you stop pestering me. You can't see all that because you don't see the context menu that pops up, I think. You can't see that. Yeah, it doesn't pop up. Monarch, leader, sovereign, leader, potentate, head of state, subject. Who is the head of this facility? Sovereign is too much. The leader is too. Maybe we'll have to think about that till next time, because for today we're finished. Our hour is up. I hope you enjoyed this a bit, in spite of it mostly being me rambling about and apologizing, trying to apologize for my own ableism or something like that. And I hope you can kind of understand why I feel the need to talk about how sensitive this matter is, and I hope you're not feeling I make it worse by doing that. If you do, but feel uncomfortable saying it kind of in public here in the chat, feel free to approach me by direct message, and of course you can also approach me anonymously if you want. I thank you for your participation, for your input, for your nice ideas, and for your interest. And I hope you'll join me again in our next English writing live stream. Until then, have a nice Sunday. I think it's Sunday everywhere where you are, although we are at different times of day. And goodbye. Now going to look Ah, for that cursed button who's here somewhere. There, stream, finish stream. Goodbye. Die